Maya Brooks pressed both crying infants against her chest, their tiny faces buried against her heartbeat. She began to hum, low, trembling and full of warmth. The same lullaby her grandmother used to sing beneath the tin roof of their old farmhouse. Almost instantly, little Lily's sharp sobs softened into hiccups. Lucas, her twin brother, unclenched his fists and released a long, shaky breath. Within moments, both babies were silent, peaceful. At the nursery doorway, Ethan Carter stood frozen, his jaw tight, eyes glistening. This woman, the one he'd hired just a few hours ago, had done what 6 professional nannies, 2 pediatric specialists, and 1,000 sleepless nights could not. His children were sleeping, truly sleeping. He pressed a trembling hand over his mouth, afraid to make a sound that might shatter the miracle before him. For the first time in months, there was no crying, only the soft hum of a lullaby and the faint rhythm of 2 tiny breaths. When he finally whispered, How did you do that?" Maya looked up, tears shining in her eyes, and said quietly, "They didn't need more help, Mr. Carter. They just needed to be held." And in that moment, Ethan knew. This woman hadn't just calmed his babies. She had awakened something in him. But to understand how this night came to be, we have to go back to where it all began. The rain had been falling for hours, tracing silver lines down the tall windows of the Carter mansion. The entire house was dark except for one dim lamp in the nursery, a soft amber glow that flickered over 2 restless infants and a man who hadn't slept in days. Ethan Carter stood by the crib, his white shirt wrinkled, eyes hollow with exhaustion. His twins, Lily and Lucas, had been crying since dusk. Nothing he tried worked. Not the bottle, not the rocking chair, not the endless lullabies from his phone's playlist. Their screams seemed to pierce through his chest until his own heartbeat felt like a drum of panic. He pressed his palms against his face and whispered into the dark, "Please, just for 5 minutes, please stop crying." But the babies wailed louder, as if the world itself were breaking around them. And then, through the storm, came a gentle knock at the door. Maya Brooks stepped inside quietly, her brown skin glimmering faintly in the lamplight, her eyes soft but steady. She had only started working that morning, the newest in a long line of nannies who had come and gone within weeks. Ethan barely looked up when she entered. He'd already lost hope that anyone could help. "I heard them crying," Maya said, softly, setting down the folded blanket in her hands. Her voice carried a calm that cut through the chaos. "They won't stop," Ethan muttered hoarsely. "No one can get them to sleep. Not the doctors, not the specialists, not anyone." Maya didn't answer right away. She approached the crib, her movements slow, deliberate. "May I?" she asked. He nodded, too tired to resist. With surprising strength, Maya lifted both, babies at once, pressing their small bodies against her chest. Lily's head rested over her heart. Lucas's tiny fingers clutched her shirt. Their cries trembled, paused, as if confused by the sudden warmth. Then Maya began to hum. It wasn't a tune Ethan recognized. No nursery rhyme, no classical lullaby. It was something older, raw, and deeply human, a melody that carried both sorrow and comfort like a secret passed down through generations. The sound filled the room with a strange kind of peace. Ethan watched, breath held, as the impossible happened. Lily's cries faded into soft hiccups. Lucas's legs stopped kicking. Within a minute, both babies were silent. Their breathing fell into rhythm with Maya's. Slow, even, safe. The only sound left was the steady patter of rain and the hum of that lullaby weaving through the air like magic. Ethan's throat tightened. He took a hesitant step closer, afraid to break whatever spell she'd cast. "How did you—" His voice cracked, disbelieving. "No one's ever They haven't slept since... Maya looked down at the twins, her cheek brushing the top of Lily's head. Her voice was barely a whisper. They weren't crying for food, Mr. Carter. They were crying for someone to hold them, to remind them they're safe. For a moment, he couldn't speak, his vision blurred with tears he hadn't let himself cry since the funeral. All the money, all the experts, all the desperate nights. And this woman, a stranger, had done more in 10 minutes than he could in 3 months. He leaned against the doorway, watching her rock his children, his whole world, with such tenderness it made his heart ache. The twins slept soundly, faces relaxed for the first time since their mother's passing, and something inside Ethan shifted, a quiet realization that this woman wasn't just a caretaker. She was a light flickering back into a house that had long been dark. Maya looked up at him then, meeting his gaze. "It's all right now," she said softly. "They just needed to feel loved." Ethan nodded, unable to find words. He pressed a trembling hand over his mouth, afraid that even breathing too loudly might wake them. For the first time in months there was silence, the kind of silence that feels like healing. And as he stood there in the doorway, tears shining in the dim light, one thought filled his mind. Who is this woman? And how did she just bring peace to my broken world? To understand that, we need to go back to where it all began. 3 months earlier, the Carter mansion looked very different. The nursery that now glowed with warmth had once felt like a battlefield, every corner echoing with the cries of 2 infants who refused to rest. It was 3:17 a.m. The city slept under the veil of a quiet winter night, but inside, Ethan Carter sat on the nursery floor, head buried in his hands. His twins, Lily and Lucas, screamed endlessly from their bassinets. His white shirt was stained with formula, his hair messy, and his eyes red from nights without sleep. "Please," he whispered hoarsely, rocking Lily in his arms. "Please, just close your eyes." His voice broke on the last word, but Lily's tiny fists beat weakly against his chest, her cries piercing through the silence like shattered glass. Lucas joined in seconds later, his wails echoing off the pale nursery walls until it felt like the entire house was weeping. Since Sophie's death, the mansion hadn't known peace. Just months earlier, laughter had filled these halls. Sophie's laughter, bright and unshakable. She'd been the kind of woman who made every room feel alive. But 2 weeks after giving birth to the twins, a sudden cardiac arrest took her, in her sleep. Ethan had gone from a loving husband to a widowed father of 2 overnight. He tried to be strong. He really did. But every bottle he warmed, every diaper he changed, every sleepless night reminded him of her absence. He'd built companies worth billions, yet here he was, powerless before 2 5-month-old babies. In desperation, he hired help. Nurses, consultants, pediatric experts, one after another. Some blamed colic. Others suggested sleep training. The last one had told him to let the babies cry it out. He'd tried that once. After 20 minutes, he broke down before they did. By the 6th week, even the most experienced nannies began to quit. "They won't settle, sir," one had said gently. "It's like they can feel the grief in this house." And maybe they could, because grief hung in every breath Ethan took, in every room, every memory, every sleepless dawn that came too soon. He didn't know it then, but his life, and his children's, were waiting for the one person who could turn that grief into peace. Her name was Maya Brooks. The morning Maya Brooks arrived, the sky was overcast, a dull gray curtain that matched the mood inside the Carter estate. Ethan had been in his office, staring blankly at the stack of nanny applications his assistant had printed out. Each resume boasted experience, certificates, glowing recommendations, and yet One by one, they had failed. Every interview ended the same way: polite smiles, promises to try their best, and a resignation letter within days. He didn't expect anything different from this new applicant. He hadn't even read her file. "Sir," his housekeeper, Martha, said gently, stepping into the office, "the new nanny is here." Ethan glanced up briefly. "Send her in." The door opened quietly, and Maya stepped inside. She was in her early 30s, tall and slender, dressed modestly in a simple navy blouse and gray skirt. Her dark curls were tied neatly, and a small silver cross hung around her neck. But it wasn't her appearance that caught Ethan's attention. It was her eyes. Calm. Steady. Like she'd already seen the worst life could offer and somehow made peace with it. "Mr. Carter," she said softly, extending her hand. "Thank you for seeing me." Her voice had a warmth to it, low and smooth. The kind that made you listen without realizing you were. Ethan shook her hand briefly, then gestured to the chair opposite his desk. "I'll be honest," he said, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "I've hired 6 people in the past 2 months. None of them lasted. My children are difficult." Maya nodded. "I understand." "No, I don't think you do," Ethan replied, his tone weary. "They don't sleep, they don't stop crying. Nothing works. Specialists, therapists, you name it." "Maybe," Maya said gently. "They don't need fixing." Ethan frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," she continued, "sometimes babies cry because they're grieving too." That sentence silenced the room. Ethan looked up sharply, unsure what to say. Something about the way she said it, quiet, certain, hit too close to home. Maya continued calmly, "If you'll let me try, I don't promise miracles. I just promise love." Ethan stared at her for a long moment. Her words sounded strange, too simple, too naive, and yet there was something in them that made him hesitate before dismissing her. "Against all logic," he said. "Fine. 1 week. If you can manage even 1 peaceful night, you stay." Maya smiled faintly. "That's all I need." From her first day, the house felt different. She didn't rush. She didn't bark orders or carry gadgets like the previous nannies. She moved quietly, speaking softly to the babies as if they were old friends. She'd hum while folding tiny clothes, whisper prayers under her breath, and every night before bed, she would read to the twins, even though they couldn't understand the words. "Why do you read to them?" Ethan had asked one night, leaning against the nursery doorway. "Because," Maya said without looking up, "stories teach the heart to feel safe again." He didn't understand it then, but he found himself lingering at the door longer than he intended, listening to her calm, rhythmic voice as the twins slowly drifted to sleep. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, something remarkable began to happen. Lily stopped crying when Maya held her. Lucas began to giggle, a sound Ethan hadn't heard since the funeral. Even the staff noticed. "The babies seem happier," Martha whispered one morning. "And so does Mr. Carter." But with peace came questions. Sometimes Ethan would catch Maya staring out the window late at night, her expression unreadable. Once, he passed by her room and heard her whispering softly, "Mama, I'm keeping my promise. No child will cry alone like I did." The words lingered in his mind. Who was she talking to? And what promise was she keeping? One afternoon, while they were in the garden, Ethan finally asked, "Maya," he began cautiously, "you've worked wonders here, but you never talk about yourself. Where are you from?" She smiled faintly, but didn't look at him. "Somewhere far from this world, Mr. Carter. Somewhere I left behind a long time ago." Before he could press further, Lily began to fuss. Maya picked her up instantly, humming that same mysterious tune, the one that could quiet any storm. Ethan stood watching, struck again by how natural it seemed, how the twins melted into her arms like they belonged there. He didn't know her story. But he knew one thing for sure. This woman carried a secret. And whatever it was, it had the power to heal or break everything. The following month passed like a quiet dream. For the first time since Sophie's death, the Carter mansion felt alive. The halls echoed with the sound of baby laughter, instead of wails. Lily giggled when Maya played peekaboo. Lucas loved to tug at her hair, squealing in delight. Even Ethan, once buried under grief and exhaustion, found himself smiling more. Small, fragile smiles that carried both gratitude and disbelief. Every evening, he'd find himself drawn to the nursery doorway. There, Maya sat in the rocking chair, singing her soft lullaby while the twins rested against her. The golden lamplight bathed the room in warmth, and for a fleeting second it almost felt like home again. One night, Ethan finally said what had been on his mind for weeks. "You've done something no one else could," he told her quietly. "You've brought peace back into this house." Maya smiled but didn't look up from the twins. "It's not me, Mr. Carter, it's love. It's patience. They just needed to feel it again." He wanted to thank her properly, to tell her how much she'd changed everything. But every time he tried, something in her eyes stopped him. There was gratitude there, but also a sadness he couldn't name. Then one morning, everything changed. It began with a phone call. Ethan was in his study when his lawyer, Daniel, called from downtown. "Ethan," Daniel said in a hesitant tone, "I received an anonymous tip this morning about your nanny." Ethan frowned. "Maya? What, about her? There's no record of a Maya Brooks in the National Nanny Registry. No certifications, no background checks, nothing. It's like she doesn't exist before last year." Ethan's chest tightened. "That can't be right." "I'm just telling you what I found," Daniel replied carefully. "Be cautious. You have children in the house." After hanging up, Ethan sat frozen, the words echoing in his mind. No record, no history. He wanted to dismiss it. Wanted to believe Maya was who she said she was. But the seed of doubt had been planted. That evening, when Maya returned from the garden with the twins, he asked her to join him in the study. His voice was gentle, but strained. "Maya," he began, "I need to ask you something." She looked at him, puzzled. "Of course, sir." "Who are you, really?" he asked quietly. "My lawyer says there's no record of a Maya Brooks anywhere. Not in employment, not in education. Nothing." Maya froze. The color drained from her face. "I don't want to accuse you of anything," Ethan added quickly, "but I need to know who's in my home. Who's holding my children." For a moment, the only sound in the room was the faint ticking of the clock. Then, slowly, Maya exhaled. Her shoulders sagged, as if a weight she'd carried too long had finally slipped. "Free. You're right," she said softly. "My name isn't Maya Brooks." Ethan's heart skipped. "Then who are you?" She met his eyes, calm, sad, but unafraid. "My real name is Maya Sanders." He frowned. "Sanders? Why does that sound familiar?" "Because," she whispered, "my mother, Clara Sanders, used to work here, in this house." Ethan's breath caught. Memories flickered. A kind woman with kind eyes, working quietly in the background when he was a boy. "Clara," he murmured. "The housemaid?" Maya nodded. "She worked here for nearly 20 years. She raised your younger sister, helped your mother when your father was gone on business trips. She loved this place. But one day she was fired, accused of stealing jewelry from your mother's room. She swore she didn't do it, but no one listened. She lost everything that day." Ethan felt his stomach twist. I didn't know." "She was never the same after that," Maya continued, her voice trembling now. She worked herself sick trying to provide for us. When she died, I promised I'd make things right, not by revenge, but by proving that love and honesty still matter. When I saw your job posting, I knew it was fate. I just wanted to help, to heal what once broke us both. Tears burned behind Ethan's eyes. Maya, why didn't you just tell me? Because, she said softly, you would have never hired me. Not the daughter of a woman your family wronged. I didn't come here for pity, Mr. Carter. I came here to give your children what I never had. A home that still believes in love, even after pain. Silence fell. The air between them was heavy with unspoken emotions, guilt, sorrow, and something else neither could name. Then Lily's cry echoed down the hallway. Without hesitation, Maya turned and rushed upstairs. Ethan followed, still dazed. He watched as Maya lifted Lily gently, humming that same old lullaby. Within seconds, the baby stopped crying, melting into her embrace. Ethan's vision blurred. That melody, that warmth, it wasn't deceit, it was truth. He stepped closer, his voice low. Maya, I don't care what name you carry. You belong here. You've done more for this family than anyone ever could. Maya's eyes shimmered with tears. I only wanted to bring peace. And you did, Ethan whispered. You brought life back into this house. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The rain tapped softly on the window, the twins breathed evenly, and the ghosts of the past seemed to fade into quiet forgiveness. But deep inside Ethan's heart, one thought began to take root. A thought, both terrifying and beautiful. He wasn't just grateful to Maya, he was falling in love with her. Weeks passed after the truth came out. What could have ended in bitterness instead became the beginning of something neither Maya nor Ethan had expected. Healing. The mansion no longer felt haunted by memories of loss. The once silent halls now carried the music of laughter, lullabies, and little footsteps. The twins adored Maya more than anyone. Lily refused to sleep unless Maya sang her lullaby, and Lucas would crawl after her no matter where she went. And Ethan, he found himself drawn to her every day, not out of curiosity, but out of peace. There was something about her presence, calm, forgiving, almost angelic, that made him believe in life again. One chilly autumn evening, he found Maya in the garden, wrapping the twins in soft blankets under the amber sky. Fallen leaves swirled around them like tiny dancers, and the scene was almost poetic. Ethan approached quietly. They love you more than anyone, you know. Maya smiled, eyes glistening. They saved me more than I saved them. He hesitated, his voice softer now. You could have left after what happened, after I questioned you. But you stayed. She looked at him, really looked, and said, because forgiveness heals more than truth ever can. I didn't stay for myself, Ethan. I stayed for them. And maybe for you too. For a long moment, they stood in silence, the air heavy with emotion. The twins babbled softly between them, and somewhere in the distance, church bells rang, slow, solemn, yet full of hope. Ethan finally took a step closer. Maya, I've made many mistakes, with Sophie, with my family, and with you, but when I see you holding them, singing to them, smiling again, I see the family I thought I lost forever. Maya's breath trembled. Ethan, he stopped, her gently. No, let me say this. You brought light into this house again. You reminded me what love feels like, and I don't want to lose that. Not again. For the first time, Maya didn't hold back the tears. She let them fall, not from sadness, but from release. Under the fading sunset, Ethan reached out, holding her hand softly, almost reverently. There were no promises, no grand declarations, just two broken souls finally finding peace in the same heartbeat. The wind rustled through the trees, carrying away years of pain, guilt, and loneliness. As night fell over the Carter estate, laughter echoed through the home once more. This time not from memory, but from life. Love doesn't always come from blood or history. Sometimes it's found in forgiveness, in choosing to heal rather than hate. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who still believes in second chances. Because sometimes the people meant to heal us come when we least expect it.